Family loading, please wait, episode 5. He'd forgotten about Tom's guitar. Years ago, from afar, Sonic had watched him sit on the back deck, strumming and singing while Maddie handed out appetizers to their friends. He'd seen humans make music on TV plenty, but something about hearing it live just felt so much more special. At 8 years old, he was still pretty dodgy about getting too close to the humans. But that night, he just sat at the edge of the woods, enthralled until the party was over and the humans who were quickly becoming his favorites went to bed. It had become a favorite Friday night activity for a year or two, until the number of friends showing up started to dwindle, and then parties on the deck were replaced with game nights, which were then replaced when the remaining friends stopped coming altogether, with movie nights alone. And in the excitement of all things Keanu, he had forgotten about the guitar until 3:35 p.m. on a Tuesday. It was raining, the kind of cold, miserable rain only November could pull off, and the plans they'd made to go watch the high school football team practice were ruined. Maddie had suggested yoga and homework, both of which he'd vetoed, but as she put the kettle on to make cocoa, she got another idea.
I'm pretty sure Tom has an old NES in his closet in our bedroom. How about that?
And any what?
You know, Nintendo. Video games.
Oh wow, really?
Socked feet already itching to take off, he jogged in place beside her.
Yeah, I distinctly recall him forbidding me from selling it at the last yard sale.
She said, tapping her chin.
It should be in the back of the closet in an old shoebox. Why don't you go take a look?
That's okay. I mean, I'm allowed to?
One hand reached out and rubbed his ears, stopping him mid-sentence.
Yes, I'm telling you it's okay to dig around in the closet. Better that than trusting you to man the stove.
Oh yeah, good call, Maddie.
He was gone before she could blink. He hesitated in the doorway to the master bedroom. Even with permission, it still felt strange. The room was dark, but on sunny days, light poured in from French doors that led to the deck. Hide and seek was a lot of fun when you put that deck into play. You could start in one direction and then work your way around to an entirely different part of the house from the outside. He hopped up and hit the light switch, and the ceiling fan fixture blinked on. The bed was big, much bigger than his, and neatly made, again, the opposite of his. It was easy to tell whose side was whose by the nightstands. They were identical with matching table lamps, but one was home to a collection of lotion bottles and magazines, while the others sported a rained coffee cup stain and a Tom Clancy novel. And given that there was a single-door closet on either side of the bed as well, deducing which was the one that held the sought-after vintage video game system was a snap. Yet still he hesitated, rocking back and forth on his heels. This was their room. Theirs. The other rooms in the house were for everyone, but this was for them. And Ozzy, the adorable jerk. He had stood in this spot before, maybe a dozen times, in the middle of the night, when a particularly vivid dream had woken him up. At the crack of dawn, he'd been itching to take a run, but couldn't leave without telling them first. But he'd never gone in. Each time his knuckles neared the painted wood, he froze up, retreated. What if they didn't want to be woken up? They both had important jobs. People and animals depended on them. They needed their sleep. He was a big kid, a teenager practically grown. He could handle bad dreams. He could wait until their alarm went off to go for a run. He could go into his room.
Just go get the video games. Go in Donut Lord's closet where he keeps all of his Donut Lord stuff and get it. Easy. Totally.
He said to himself, One foot rose up and then his whole body pivoted and he began pacing in the hall.
She said you were allowed. This isn't a big deal. Yes, it is. It's their room, full of their stuff. And what if you break something? Come on, when have you ever broken anything? Last Thursday. But it was okay, remember? No big deal, they said. Maybe they were just saying that because you started to get all sparky on them, and they didn't want anything to catch fire. No, accidents happen. They said they break stuff. Ozzy breaks stuff. We all just try to be careful and clean up the mess afterwards. It's okay. You can do this.
He forced himself to stop pacing and face the room again, took a big yoga breath, let it out slowly, stepped into the room. The world did not end.
Right, okay.
The closet that corresponded with the coffee stain nightstand was more or less what he'd imagined it would be. Sheriff uniforms all pressed and on hangers next to plaid flannel shirts in every possible color. The shelf above the hanger bar had a motorcycle helmet that he lodged in the back of his brain to ask about later, and a pile of what looked like photo albums. The floor was a cluttered mess of shoes, plastic bags filled with old USB cables and boxes.
Shoebox. Which one is it?
On hands and knees, he poked around. The smell of cut grass and shoe leather and sugar wrinkled his nose.
What in the world?
He mumbled before it clicked. Donut Lord. The closet smelled like him. Because of course it did, duh. He let out a tiny huff, shook his head, even as a warm feeling settled in his stomach. It went back deeper than he had expected, and he was almost completely inside before his search led him to a box with NES Maddie Don't Touch scrawled across the side in Sharpie.
Aha, yes!
With one hand, he yanked it forward, and something big and black that had apparently been held in place only by this particular box lurched towards him as well.
No.
Reflexes working exactly as they should, he shot both hands up and caught the whatever it was. It was heavy and oddly shaped, and out of curiosity, he tapped his knuckles against it. It sounded half hollow.
Hiding a baby vampire in here, Donut Lord?
Carefully, he eased the object down to the floor, scooted back with it towards the light so he could get a better look. It was a container. It had hinges and latches and no lock. On curious teen autopilot, he opened it. The moment the light hit the polished wood, he froze.
Oh.
All at once, he was 8 years old again, watching from the tree line, creeping under the deck to hear better. He could hear it now, so clear he wondered how he could have forgotten. The case was dusty, had to have been tucked away in the closet for 3-4 years? Stomach clenching, he wondered why. Even from his hidden vantage point, playing this instrument had always seemed to be such a joyful thing. The smiles, the laughter, it was all as vivid in his mind as if it had been days instead of years. So what had happened? He let a hand rest on the top of the strings.
Hey, is everything okay in here? Oh, wow.
At the sound of Manny's voice, he scrambled to his feet, ears flat against his head.
I'm sorry. Because it almost fell on me, but I shouldn't have opened it, and...
But she just kept coming towards him, dropping to her knees on the floor beside the bed.
Are you okay?
Huh?
When it fell, did it hit you?
Her hands were on him, tilting his head up to one side and then the other.
What? Oh, no, I'm okay.
He pulled out of her grasp, muzzle haunt. She sat back on her heels.
Good.
Her eyes stayed on him a moment longer and he turned to his own gaze away, back to the guitar. She must have followed suit because she ran a hand lovingly over the guitar.
I forgot he had this in the closet.
You forgot too?
Sonic hung back, watching.
I mean, I didn't forget he had it. I just hadn't thought about it in a while.
She snatched the tissue box off the nightstand and began wiping the dust off the case.
Wait, you knew about this?
Oh, yeah.
He nodded, feeling comfortable enough to sit back down beside her.
When I was little, I used to come listen to him play.
Her expression changed to one he was starting to recognize and dislike. Pity. It was why he avoided talking about his life in the woods as much as possible. That poor Sonic face the both of them made whenever he let something slip was unbearable. Eager to move beyond it, he asked,
How come he doesn't play anymore?
I don't know. Lack of an audience, I guess. When we first started dating, he played for me all the time. Cheesy? Yes, but I loved it. Before all of our friends started having babies and getting too busy, he used to hold Core out on the deck and play for hours. He played at our wedding, at George's baptism, at my graduation party. Any opportunity he had to make me cry, he went for it.
The hedgehog shifted in his seat, crossing his legs and gripping his ankles.
He made you cry? He never sounded off-pitch to me.
Laughter bubbled up as Maddie shook her head.
Happy tears, Sonic.
I don't follow.
People cry for all kinds of reasons.
She told him in that matter-of-fact here's how the world works way of hers.
When they're sad, of course, but also when they're angry or hurt, or in my case, when they are filled to the brim with happiness because their cheeseball husband decided to sing Jim Croc at his wedding toast.
He liked talking about crying just as much as he liked actually doing it, so he asked,
Jim who?
Oh, don't let Tom hear you say you don't know who he is. Now, if you actually want me to get the game system up and running before dinner, we better get started.
She then closed the guitar case.
Right, yes. Let's do it.
He hopped to his feet. Maddie tucked the guitar case back into the closet, and the afternoon passed uneventfully. It was easy to get distracted when you had to guide a tiny little plumber through a terrible mushroom world full of weirdly hostile turtles. But then at dinner, Tom asked what they'd done that day. Maddie brought up the video game, and that got Tom reminiscing about after-school marathon sessions trying to rescue the princess from the Turtle King.
Think I was just a little younger than you are.
He said, pointing at Sonic with a fork full of mashed potatoes. The team blinked, trying to picture it. Freaky.
And it still runs? Wild.
Yeah, they don't make them like that anymore.
Sonic shrugged, poked at his own plate.
We found your guitar too.
Casual, just a passing observation. Not at all something that was making his stomach twist in uncomfortable ways.
Oh yeah?
Uh-huh.
He nodded, speared a piece of broccoli with his fork.
Maybe if Pretzel Lady's sister ever decides to talk to you again and come visit, maybe you could play it, cause it's for family stuff.
The humans exchanged a glance across the table, but he didn't notice. His eyes stayed on his plate until he declared himself full and asked to be excused, which was still strange, but neither here nor there.
Sure, kiddo.
We'll call you later for dessert.
He was up to his room in less than a second, pulling the stairs closed behind him. He had homework to do, and he almost made it to his desk before veering to the left and flopping into the beanbag chair instead. His fingers brushed against the paddle ball on the floor, and on autopilot, he grabbed it up.
Idiot! Why'd you go and say that? If Donut Lord wanted to play that guitar again, he would do it. You shouldn't be bugging him about stuff like that.
He started bouncing the ball on the paddle. The rain pelted the glass of the skylight. Nothing but blank beyond, and he was grateful for the string lights in the rafters.
They do so much for you already.
He paddled the ball a little harder.
Yeah, the car seat blows, and yeah, having to tell them when you're gonna go for a run is a drag. But so what?
He started to paddle the ball faster.
You get home-cooked meals and movie nights and regular baths and someone to talk to other than yourself and…
His paddling became more intense.
Exactly, you should be happy. I am. So what more do you want? I don't know.
The string on the paddle ball chose that moment to snap, and the ball went ricocheting across the room, knocking several books down from a shelf and bumping a poster askew before sailing towards Tom's head as it appeared at the top of a ladder. The sheriff ducked.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Stomach icy, ears flat, he bolted upright, so caught up in an argument with himself he hadn't even heard the stairs open.
Geez, kid, I knew something was off, but I wasn't expecting booby traps.
With a grin, Tom put one hand on the floor to pull himself up and into the room. Jokes. Okay, he wasn't in trouble. How long had he been? How much had Donald overheard? Tamping down that thought for the moment, Sonic stood.
Apparently, tourist trap gift shops toys aren't built to last.
Well, I, for one, am shocked. It's all good. I've got something more fun for us to play with.
He raised his other arm, the neck of the guitar clutched in his hand. The paddle clattered to the floor.
You didn't have to.
I know I didn't.
Tom set the instrument down gently and then hoisted himself up so he was sitting on the attic floor.
But I wanted to. Maddie said he remembered this.
Fists clenched at his sides. The hedgehog nodded.
What about it do you remember?
Crap, he already gotten the pity face from Maddie today. Did he really have to get it from Tom too?
I don't know.
He lied, shuffling his feet. Tom merely shrugged and got to his feet, guitar in hand, as he crossed the room to go sit at the desk chair. Silently, he tweaked one of the tuning pegs, plucked a string, then twisted the peg again. Sonic watched him, feeling that same pull he'd felt back at the edge of the woods. He moved slowly closer.
I remember you used to sit out on the deck with this big group of people around, playing until the fire pit went dark.
That was probably right after we bought the house.
Tom kept his eyes on his instrument, plucking and twisting, so if he was making any sort of face, Sonic couldn't see it. He wondered if that was on purpose.
This place was the premier nightlife hotspot back then.
The team felt a smirk tug at his cheeks.
I remember it looked like fun. People would request songs and you'd just know them.
Any in particular you remember?
Something about Superman and the Lone Ranger.
Tom rearranged his fingers on the guitar and started to strum a deep, halting beat that Sonic instantly recognized.
You mean this?
Nodding, Sonic found his seat on his bed, a smile blooming across his face. Tom hit a sour note, stopped, twisted another peg. He got the rhythm going again, clearing his throat, and then began to sing. Sonic watched, fingers tapping on the side of the bed. Something warm settled in his stomach, a comfort he had always associated with the humans in this house. Even all those years ago, listening in from under their deck, he felt safer than he'd never felt in the woods. Not even in the cave. All those lonely nights spent wishing they'd stay up late, that the fire would last just a little bit longer, so that they wouldn't pack up and go inside. Each creak of the wooden board above his head, flaring a mix of fear and longing, both terrified and desperately hoping that they might find him. And now, here he was. Altogether too soon, Tom strummed the final chord and put a hand on the strings to quiet them.
How was that? Not too rusty?
I think you went into the wrong business. Why aren't you famous by now?
Tom laughed, leaning back into his chair.
Don't really like the spotlight.
Says the guy who knows everybody in town.
Let's put it this way. I did one open mic night at Tony's 15 years ago, and there's folks who still call me the singing cop. Lesson learned.
They're just jealous cause that was so cool.
Well, I'm glad you think so.
Tom folded his arms atop the guitar, fixed his gaze on the boy.
If I'd known that I had another fan in the house, I might have thought to break this bad boy out earlier.
Sonic's ears drooped slightly.
Yeah, well,
He hunched his shoulders.
is that why you didn't? Cause you didn't think I'd like it?
But we only know what you like when you tell us. So far on the list, we've got Keanu Reeves, chili dogs, sports, pizza, bath bombs, running, when Maddie rubs your ears,
Sonic's face flushed, but Tom went right on listing.
walking Aussie, Moose Track ice cream, Taco Tuesday at school, high fives, Mellow Yellow, Super Mario Brothers. There's probably a few I'm forgetting, but all that's to say that we want you to be comfortable here. I know you've got a love-hate relationships with my puns, so I don't know. Maybe I thought singing the oldies might be, oh, what are the kids saying now? Cringe? Am I using that right?
I think so. That you got it right, not that you're cringe. Why does it matter what I think anyway?
Well, gee, I don't know. Maybe because you're important to us, to this family. Sure, sometimes it feels like a badge of honor to swap how I embarrassed my kid this week. Stories with the guys at work, but
You talk about me at work?
Around him, the room fell out of focus.
of course, it's kind of fun. I never got to join in before.
Sonic blinked hard, turning his eyes down.
Sonic?
His hands fisted in the blanket, whole face hot, every muscle tensed. He felt a tingle at the tip of his quills and bit down hard on his bottom lip.
Sonic?
He shook his head, gaze laser focused on his bedspread. He heard the soft thunk of wood touching the floor and the squeaking wheel of his desk chair being rolled. And then the scent of cut grass and shoe leather and sugar was right under his nose. He raised his head, just slightly. Tom was down on one knee beside the bed, looking up at him with a sad smile. The tingle faded.
Can I sit?
Sonic nodded, and the man was settling down next to him on the comforter. A big warm hand came down on his shoulder, and he took a shuddering breath.
Sorry.
When we first moved you in here, we never really laid anything out about what we were thinking. I guess we've been dropping hints, some subtle, some not so much, and leaving it up to you to figure it out. We've been so worried about not pushing too hard that I think we just made everything more sticky. And I'm sorry about that.
He shifted, leaning a bit closer.
Little known secret that you can't tell the kids at school. Grown-ups have no clue what they're doing most of the time.
Welcome to the club. We should get t-shirts made.
Sonic muttered, unable to even muster up a passable amount of snark in his voice, and the joke fell limp between them. Tom cleared his throat, straightening up again.
So here's what I think. These are going to have to change around here.
His chest seized up, and he had to squeeze his burning eyes shut. Change, in his experience, was rarely a good thing. Change meant being shoved halfway across the universe under a hail of arrows alone.
Why? What's wrong with the way it is now? We're best friends, and that's fine. I know I keep messing it up, but
We don't want to be your friends, Sonic.
His stomach clenched, his heart pounded, his legs twitched.
We want to be your parents.
All at once, he was back in the dirt, under the deck, silently watching, fearing, wishing, hiding, hoping. They were words he'd been waiting for years. He couldn't possibly have just heard them, right? Tom's voice was soft and tinged with uncertainty.
Is that something you want to?
He opened his eyes, but couldn't return to look at the man beside him. Just that tiny movement seemed too much to ask his body, that was still hovering on the edge of making the air around them thick with static. Numbly, he realized Tom's hand was still on his shoulder.
what does that mean?
He managed, voice raspy, barely audible.
It means, to start with, that day-to-day things will pretty much look the same.
Tom's tone eased back to casual, more assured, and his hand moved, sliding down Sonic's arm and pulling the boy closer.
You'll get up, we'll take you to school, pick you up, we'll eat meals together, have movie nights. You'll keep having to tell us when you need to go for a run, and maybe get a smartwatch so we can call you if you've been gone too long. You keep your room, but don't ever feel like you have to hide up here. We want you with us when you want to be. If you need a break, sure, take a break. We might need one too sometimes, but we'll always come back together again.
Sonic nodded, gripping his knees.
So then, what's different?
Different? Well, to start, we'll try to have these kinds of talks more often, the big uncomfortable ones. Which, yeah, might suck, but might be good too. And we'll all try not to walk on eggshells around each other. When we mess up, we own it. We work to make it right. We move on. And we'll probably mess up a lot. So we'll get a lot of practice making it right.
Below them, the sound of Maddie's starting the dishwasher floated up the stairs.
And also, we might tell you we love you sometimes.
His calls were suddenly digging into his knees from inside his gloves.
What?
We love you, bud. You have turned our universe completely upside down. But I wouldn't have it any other.
He was caught off as Sonic slammed into his chest, clutching at his shirt. The floodgates had finally burst, but as Donut Lord's arms wrapped around him, he let the tears come as Manny's words echoed in the back of his mind.
People cry for all kinds of reasons.
As he struggled to catch his breath, feeling the fabric against his face grow damp, he couldn't say that he was happy. He was, but that happiness was tangled up in 10 years of grief and fear, swirled up into exhaustion and relief, peeking out from under doubt and denial, and fighting like crazy to make itself known. The arms around him squeezed tighter, and he shakily drew in air.
How? Why?
The question, so small and unsure, hung in the air for a long moment before Tom's voice, equally small, equally shaky, answered.
How could we know it?
Sonic opened his eyes, focused on the guitar, leaning against his desk like it belonged there, and clung tighter still.
But I'm so much trouble. You guys had it so good before. I know. I watched you. You were like this well-oiled machine, and I'm just this wrench in the gears.
Hey,
Tom brought his hands to the boy's shoulders and eased him back so they could look at each other. Or at least they could, if Sonic didn't hang his head, eyes on the wet spot on Tom's shirt.
Sonic, look at me.
The teen forced himself to do it, eyes red and watery.
You belong here, with us. 6 months ago, I never could have imagined my life would look like this. And now, I can't imagine life without you in it. All that time I spent wanting to get out of this town, to do something that matters. This is what matters, Sonic. More than anything else I'll ever do.
Sonic opened his mouth, but all that came out was a pitiable whine, and he collapsed against Donut Lord's chest again. These sweet, beautiful, wonderful people. He might as well have been 8 again. How he wished he could be 8 again. Strong arms held him tight, and for a moment, he let himself pretend he'd been spotted all those years ago. Pretend he hadn't wasted so much precious time hiding. Pretend he wasn't such a sopping mess.
You're okay, bud. You're okay. Just breathe.
So he did. He just breathed. It was past 9 when they eventually made their way back downstairs, seeking and finding Maddie on the living room couch under a throw blanket. She looked up from her phone at the sound of floorboards creaking and smiled.
Hey,
Tom ran a hand over Sonic's head gently.
Why don't you help Maddie pick out something short to watch and I'll go grab us a bedtime snack, okay?
The hedgehog nodded and then silently shuffled over to the couch, climbing up as Maddie shifted to make room. She put her phone down on the coffee table.
so was it anything like you remembered?
In answer, he curled in close, wrapping his arms around her as far as they would go. She returned the embrace and asked softly.
What happened, baby?
He didn't look at her, kept his face tucked into her sweater.
Tom said you guys want to be my mom and dad.
Absolutely.
She dipped her face down to kiss him between the ears. He drew in a shuddering breath, waited for the burning in his tired eyes to fade.
Okay.
Okay,
Can we watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
you got it.
Okay, thanks. Man, this time of year sucks.
It's not all bad.
From his spot on the living room floor, Sonic didn't bother to lift his chin off the coffee table where his homework was laid out.
No, it sucks. It's too cold. It gets dark so early. All my Halloween candy is gone.
On the couch, magazine on her lap, golden retriever by her side, Maddie smirked.
I told you to ration it.
Yeah.
Beside her, her cell phone buzzed and she glanced at it.
Oh, Tom is on his way home. Let's give Ozzy a walk before he gets here.
His ears perked up so forcefully they seemed to hoist his entire frame upwards, because he was on his feet in an instant.
Yeah, okay.
He dashed for the front door, Ozzy trotting close behind.
Bundle up good, all right?
Maddie told him as she joined him in the foyer. He paused with one shoe half on.
How good.
With a knowing look, she reached into the basket where they kept their hats and gloves and pulled out a pair of gray kids' sweatpants. Sonic made a face.
Really?
Much like with the booster seat, they insisted on him wearing cold weather clothes, no matter how much he assured them that he didn't need them. He'd come around a bit sooner than with the booster seat, though, mainly because they'd taken him shopping and let him pick things he likes. It was harder to protest wearing his coat when it was bright red, with reflective lightning bolt stripes on the sleeves.
Really? It's cold. You said so yourself.
He complied with only minimal griping, mostly for show, slipping the pants on and wiggling to get his tail through the little hole Maddie had cut out for him. Clothes in general were still weird, but he had to admit, these were cozy. He stepped into his sneakers and then beat her to grabbing his coat down from the hook on the wall. They'd installed one just at his height below theirs.
Can I run while you walk?
He asked, zipping his coat up to his chin.
Sure.
She finished buttoning up her coat and then moved on to her scarf.
Just keep away from the roads. It's rush hour.
He was jogging in place on the front porch as she hooked Ozzy's leash on.
Are we good? Are we good?
She barely gotten out the yes before he was off. This was a routine he liked. He'd run a mile or two out, then back, check on their progress, and then dart back off again. Over and over again, wearing now familiar paths into the grass and underbrush all along the road, until they were drawing closer to the house. He met them at the end of the driveway, breath clouding in front of him, and grinning widely.
Hey, Donut Lord beat us home.
The minivan was in the driveway, and as they walked past, something in the air caught his attention. Raising his nose up, he sniffed. Smoke.
Oh no.
What?
Stay here.
In a flash, he was at the back of the house, at the source of the smell, and the rising tide of fear in his chest washed away, only to be replaced with bewilderment.
What's that?
Tom was on the deck, stoking the fire pit.
Hey, there you are.
What are you doing?
Sonic jogged up the back steps, ears twitching. Behind him, he heard Manny's footsteps in the gravel path.
Hey.
She let Ozzy off the leash and climbed up the stairs, crouching down to be eye level with him.
Tamir.
What is it?
As he drew closer, she took his hand.
Did you come running back here because you smelled the fire?
Of course, I wanted to.
You can't do that.
Why not?
Listen, I know you want to protect us, but it's not your job. We're the grown-ups. If you think something's wrong, you tell us, okay?
Sonic scuffed the toe of his sneaker on the deck.
Okay.
Thank you, Sonic.
She leaned in and rubbed her nose against his.
No more running into fire, even if it's just a little marshmallow fire.
What?
Attention back on the scene around him, he did a slow spin, taking everything in. There were pizza boxes on the table, and sodas, and a bag of marshmallows. And sitting in one of the iron deck chairs, flattening the fire pit, was Tom's guitar.
What is all of this?
He asked, even as the answer to the question was staring him in the face.
We thought that it was time you got to be up here with us, instead of watching from out there.
Tom said as Manny came up beside him and swung an arm around her shoulders. He waved a hand at the woods beyond the yard.
So what do you say?
You guys.
He looked around the space again, warmth flooding his chest.
But it's freezing out here.
The fire will help with that.
And it's just us? None of your friends?
Next time.
Maddie said. She took a few steps closer and jammed her own beanie on top of his ears.
When the weather's warmer, we'll put the word out and see if some of our old friends are up for a reunion.
It'll be great. A lot of them have kids right around your age.
Tom opened the top box of pizza and started dishing out slices.
Memorial Day, 4th of July. I bet we could really get this place hopping again.
Really?
Sonic hardly even noticed the paper plate being placed in his hands. He was still beaming at them in disbelief. Maddie steered him into a chair, put a can of Mellow Yellow in the cup holder.
If that's something you'd like.
Are you kidding? That sounds amazing.
He bounced, felt the weight of food in his lap, and dug in.
You think we could get fireworks?
We'll see about that, Betty. For now, let's eat.
And so they did, a whole pizza and a half, and then Tom settled in with the guitar and took requests, just like he used to. Only he didn't know many of the current top 40 hits Sonic kept requesting, so mostly he just played what he wanted to. He even got Maddie into singing with him, but they didn't get through the first chorus before they were both laughing too hard to finish. Sonic hugged his knees and watched them, smiling to himself as a comfortable warmth settled in his chest. Tom fell deep into what Maddie declared to be the John Drivener ballad rabbit hole as the fire slowly died. Sonic hugged his knees, eyelids growing heavy. Tom's voice washed over him, and he let his chin rest on his knees. By the time Tom had finished the song, the boy was asleep. Quietly, the adults put the food away and smothered the fire. Then Maddie took Tom's guitar so he could gingerly pick up the hedgehog, resting his furry head on a broad shoulder as they carried him up to bed. He didn't stir when they laid him down or removed his coat and shoes. He didn't stir when Tom pulled the comforter up over his shoulders or when Maddie placed a kiss on his temple and whispered,
We love you.
They were tiptoeing to the stairs when they heard him.
Love you guys too.
They turned back, but his eyes were closed. After they ever so carefully closed the attic door, Maddie wrapped both arms around Tom's middle, squeezing hard. He kissed the top of her head.
So I was thinking
About what?
about how we can make this whole thing official.
She pressed her cheek into the hollow of his shoulder, smiling.
That's not gonna be easy.
No, but it'll be worth it.